Cheers. Welcome to Adventures in Beer Selling. So I read this really cool article in the San Antonio Express on my San Antonio online called Can Breweries Survive in Central Texas 2023? And it's really exploring, I think, a relevant issue for really breweries across the country, and that is what does the future hold? So I'm going to do a couple of these, quick excerpts about what the future holds for the beer industry. The article, it points out a couple of factors that have contributed to the decline in breweries. We've seen a number. I'm in Houston. We've seen some local Houston breweries shut down and go to the wayside. Some pretty good ones. I mean, sometimes it's predictable, but sometimes it's kind of like, wow, like you figured they'd be steady. So I wanted to dive into the article to kind of look at the reasonings behind the possibility of some of the Texas brewery closures. And I'd really like your feedback on what's going on in your state or wherever you are in whatever part of the world you are. But also, what do you think the best ways is to fix this problem? And I'm going to enjoy a beer while we talk about it. All right, let me set this down. Okay, so in the San Antonio Express article, and I'll have a link to the article in the description, some of the reasons for the brewery closure. So let's explore a couple of them. One of them is the major heat wave that we've had in Texas. So for those of you guys that aren't in Texas, it's hot. It has been ungodly hot every year for the last decade. This summer specifically was very, very hot. I tell people all the time, I've been to Africa, damn near right up under the equator, and it's hotter here in Texas. And this has caused a lot of consumers to stay in their homes, to DoorDash some things. We'll talk about the pandemic in a second, but one thing I noticed is really cool restaurants that I really enjoy. One of my favorite Mexican restaurants, you can also do beer to go because of the pandemic. Well, why go hang out and have a beer where you can grab your beer to go, come home, and enjoy your beer at home under the AC? A lot of these breweries were made for outdoor living. This brewery I'm running right here, Lucky 19, they've got this really awesome patio. But is that really conducive to 106 degree heat? I think that's the highest we got. I think we got 106, 107 degrees. And then, places like Arizona, they got even hotter. So that's really hurt the industry and the setup of hanging out at a brewery. Another...
Guess what, bitch? Coronavirus! Coronavirus!
One that I just mentioned is the pandemic. I think just about everybody is pissed off about the pandemic. It's hurt multiple different industries, multiple different verticals. The pandemic has really hurt social gathering. I think about another thing about Texas is the ice house. Historically speaking, back in the day, they would have these ice houses. You can buy blocks of ice or whatever. They became watering holes for people, and that's where people would go and drink beer. Well, that's a big deal out here. But if you have social distancing, that makes that nearly impossible. So the pandemic was a really, really big grind on breweries. One note in the article that I thought was very, very interesting was that the pandemic also had the I forget what it's called, but the government was kind of giving money to businesses to help keep businesses afloat. And someone in the article points out that there is a possibility that a brewery that might not have made it that may have kept them afloat a little bit longer than they probably necessarily needed to be. So the pandemic had major effects. I mean, I don't have to spell this out for you guys. It affected just about every industry and way of life as we know it. I think it's going to be a generational changing thing that's happened in all of our lives. The next thing is, and this is specific to Central Texas, but changing demographics. So residents in Austin are starting to age out, and residents are also starting to be priced out. So it's a lot harder for breweries to survive because of the raising costs in cities like Austin. And it's just a big demographic shift. I'll talk a little bit about Gen Z, but there's a big change in the demographics there. And there's going to be a great deal of retargeting on location, retargeting on consumers to, really find that sweet spot that we had before because of the shifting demographic. People aren't drinking beer like they used to. That was another one. I think this is a big thing that everybody's talking about. If you look on some of the LinkedIn groups that are beverage alcohol related groups, people are Gen Z. They want less calories. They want the seltzers. They want one thing that I really enjoy when I'm in between beers is fused water with with hops and other things like that. So people are just not consuming beer at the rate that they were really in the last few years. So that's a big shift. The last one I wanted to talk about, I think, is another thing that a lot of people say, and that's that there's just too many breweries. Now, I have a little pushback on that. Yeah, it's a lot more breweries now than there were 10 years ago. So I looked up some numbers. In 2011, Texas had 50 breweries. And now there's over 400. But it kind of has me thinking, over 400, where do we sit compared to the other states? And we sit about 6th overall states. So let me give you the top 5. California with 957 breweries. Pennsylvania with 531, so it's a big drop off from California to Pennsylvania. New York with 504 at number 3. Washington at number 4 at 448. Colorado, number 5 at 440. And then Texas with 407. These numbers are from 2022. So there's obviously a lot more room to grow breweries. So I'd be interested to know what makes California not have too many breweries per se. I mean, compared to Texas. But when you think about population and metropolitan areas, I mean, these are pretty similar type states. They both do pretty decently economically. And the big issue that we mentioned earlier with the demographic shift is people being priced out. I couldn't imagine that people aren't being priced out in California. So my California people, let me know what you think about there being too many breweries. And let me know what you think about how the brewery industry is being affected in California by those noted things. Because it seems like to me that there's not too many breweries. I do believe that you have to put out a quality product now. I think it's not, breweries pop up all over the place. You're gonna be gone pretty quick if you don't have a strategy and at least a decent product. But I just don't know if I buy that there's just too many breweries. As much as there are maybe demographic changes and the property value pricing and stuff being a bigger factor, But again, that's got to be a factor in California. So I'm interested to know. But yeah, Texas is number 6. So the big solution that they put at the end of the article, and by all means read the article because there's some other things in there too, but one of the solutions that they put is really about owning property. So a lot of breweries are moving to new facilities on acreage to avoid the high rent from some of their original spaces, because places like Austin, everything is spiking in pricing. So really owning a particular property to place your brewery on, I think that makes sense. I would add diversifying your products, which is what a lot of breweries do. And again, I mean, this is kind of advice for that middle to large tier brewery, because obviously if you are a small brewery just starting out, it's an uphill battle. You don't have time to be making juices and ciders and seltzers. You're really just getting going. But I'm interested to know what you guys think. The article really intrigued me. This is really an ongoing question on a lot of social media of what direction are we going to go in 2023, in 2024 and beyond. Share, like, subscribe. Check out the article. I'll put it in the description. And enjoy a beer while you do it. Cheers.